Hello, and welcome to another episode of Taylor Talks Comics Live. We made it. We're here. Day late. Not $1 short, though. Today is National Financial Awareness Day, though. So let's all be aware of that. It's also Steve Martin's birthday. He turned 80 this year. I think it's Bob Backlund's birthday. Kofi Kingston's birthday for wrestling fans. And Magic Johnson. Irvin Magic Johnson was born today as well. It's August 14th. Thank you for joining me. This is a show that I do every Wednesday at noon Eastern. We're just a day late today. Some things came up yesterday. Everything's fine, no big deal, but had some things I needed to take care of. Sergio said it's his son's 12th birthday today. Happy birthday to Sergio's son. That's amazing. He shares a birthday with Steve Martin, Bob Backlund, Kofi Kingston, Magic Johnson. It's a magical day. Let's see. 4th. See, one thing that StreamYard does is I can't always see the comments that happen before we go live on YouTube, although I need to pull up my second screen anyways. I do have a big show planned today. Do I have my... Yeah, I do. Sorry. We're going to go over some comic book news and chat with you guys. That's what we do over here once a week, is that I bring up some news topics, we talk about those, and also let you guys kind of guide the conversation as well with whatever you guys want to talk about that's comic book related. Bear with me here for a second while I plug this in. I do want to say, too, that I've been trying to post more content on TikTok. So if you are a frequenter of TikTok, you can find me over there at Taylor Talks Comics. One of my moderator extraordinaires, if you could... why is this not working? If you could post a link to that for me in the chat. I think it has passed 200 followers on TikTok as well, so that's exciting. It's a brand new venue for me to try. I mean, I put stuff on there months ago, but I've been trying to do daily content now on TikTok to see, trying to grow, the brand, the following over here. Why is this not working? Glad to hear. A little worried. Okay. Sorry. My second screen is not working. I'm obviously you guys are able to watch the show. I don't know why this is not working. Bear with me for a second here. Technical difficulties. But yeah, this will always be the central hub. I want this to be like the place that I direct everyone to. I'm only going on TikTok because it really... Why? Oh my goodness. What is going on here? This is a nightmare. There we go. Jeez. YouTube is all jacked up today. All right. Anyways, back to the show. Thank you for bearing with me. But yeah, I've been putting stuff on TikTok, hopefully to direct people here on YouTube so they can join in on the live shows, join in on the pre-recorded content I make and things. Just one other avenue where I'm trying to grow an audience. And I appreciate that. It's one thing I'm trying to... One of my goals this year was to really try to focus in on YouTube. And I just found out, or just saw on my Facebook memories, 1 year ago today is when I crossed the 2,000 subscriber threshold. And now I'm on my way to 4,000 subscribers. I'm like a little less than 200 subscribers short of 4,000. My goal is to hit 5,000 by the end of this year. So thank you guys all for helping me join in on that. The way you can help me is always by sharing my videos on Reddit, Facebook, wherever, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you frequent your comic book conversations, or your friends at the comic book shop. Share my channel. It's a great way to help out. Give all my videos that you watch a thumbs up, a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. All those things help the YouTube algorithm put my videos and my channel in front of the eyeballs of other comic book fans that don't know my channel exists. And all those don't cost you a dime, just a little bit of your time. And I appreciate it greatly. And hopefully I can like upgrade some things around here, like the lighting and the microphone and the video quality. I'm still using StreamYard's free service. Hopefully I can upgrade to the subscription package with all, the growth of the channel as well. If you do want to help monetarily, super chats are always welcome. I'll never ask or beg, but those are always welcome if you feel so inclined. Let's see what you guys talk about though. What's up? Greetings from Queens. Hourglass. Yes, I was a little bit late. Glad to hear, a little worried. Yeah, everything's fine. It was just a small little crisis, but nothing that could have been solved with a little bit of a delay of the show. Everything's fine. Greetings from Greece. Taylor, I was first. There's my TikTok for everyone to subscribe there. I appreciate that. Like I said, there will be daily short form content on TikTok is my goal. I can't promise it'll be every single day, but that's my goal, is to do daily. I film a bunch of them ahead of time and then release them. So if you are into short form comic book recommendations and things, that's kind of what I'm doing over there. And you're on fire lately. Thank you, Sergio. On your recent short, you said you didn't care what format people buy Swamp Thing in, but didn't say that any other of the comics you talked about. You said that this while holding the absolute. Question. Okay. Was this specifically meant to belittle Tatiana Wood's coloring contribution, or do you not value colorists? What exactly did you mean? Well, one thing, Harvey, is that on TikTok with short form content, I can't elaborate and say a lot, which is one of the benefits of YouTube, is I like to talk a lot. So when I'm doing an overview on my YouTube channel, I will elaborate more on those points. And I did do overviews of I did 3 different video overviews of each volume of the Absolute editions of those Swamp Thing books. I absolutely love Tatiana Wood's coloring, and I absolutely did not mean to belittle her coloring contribution. I do think Steve Oliff is a great colorist as well. I do think people are a little like they talk about the recoloring in those Absolute editions as if it's bad. It's not bad coloring. Like, the coloring is great, and it's coming from a talented colorist. It's just not Tatiana Wood's original coloring and what the creators originally intended, which is unfortunate. I would appreciate it more if it was done to the original coloring that Tatiana Wood and the creators, the artist and the writer Alan Moore and Bissett and Veach and Tuttleben, what they all intended for the coloring to be in Tatiana Wood's idea. I talk about this too whenever I talk about the Killing Joke Absolute edition, where Brian Boland recolored. I think John Higgins did the coloring on the original release of Killing Joke, and then Brian Boland recolored it for the graphic novel version. And in the Absolute edition, you get both versions. I very much prefer John Higgins' treatment because it's more of like a psychedelic comic book color look to it. And I very much not the biggest fan of Brian Boland's treatment, which is more like realistic coloring treatment and things. I talk about coloring all the time, I feel like. So no, I absolutely do value coloring, and especially in restoration projects. I much prefer like Taschen or Folio Society, where they bring the colors to look as faithful to the most original as they can, versus like Marvel, who their Masterworks program, they recolor a lot of things with these oversaturated colors and things. I don't prefer that at all. I much prefer the faithful coloring treatment. So, long-winded way of saying, I would much prefer to read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing with Tatiana Wood's coloring. I would, if they ever do like an omnibus edition with the original colors as opposed to the recoloring with the Absolute editions, I'd probably sell my Absolute editions and go with the omnibus. But I also don't hate the recoloring in the sense that it's not bad. Like, it's not a bad way to read it. So when I said that in the TikTok about I don't care which format you read it in, I was just implying that everyone should read it with whatever format they can get their hands on. There's even great black and white editions that Titan did back in the day, which I would love to own those and read them in that format as well. It's just a way of saying, like, I don't care what format you read it in. Just read it because it's worth reading. Does that make sense? Is that fair? All right. Omar, late is now dead. Taylor time is a new way to describe late. I did adopt Omar's 5 minutes after the hour starting the show kind of thing, and I think it's good to bring in the audience that way, because sometimes with notifications and how delayed they are with the early bits of the show, it's hard to have the audience join you right away. So if they join in at noon and they're kind of waiting a couple minutes, it's better for that, I guess. I know that sounds like a rude way of me saying, like, I want you guys to wait for me, but I did adopt that, so I got that from Omar. Dana, thank you for joining me. Really psyched for Crumb's Tales of Paranoia and The Lost Marvels, collecting Barry Windsor-Smith. Some of my favorite Barry Smith work was his earliest work. Yes, we're going to talk about both those books today. I'm stoked for both those projects. I can't wait for them, so those will definitely be topics on the docket today. I'm assuming Dana saw that in the thumbnail for the show. If they had a modern inker redo the artwork in a more modern inking style, do you think that would bother you more, or would it be too much for people to make that into a big deal? I think it'd be less noticeable. I think because even like the coloring job, like we talk about it a lot, like in our little niche hobby of comic book YouTube or Facebook groups or whatever. But I think like the layman, the typical Wednesday warrior that goes into the comic shop and buys one of those absolute editions, probably, which I assume would make up like, I don't know, 70-80% of the audience. I just throwing out numbers. I don't know, but they probably couldn't even notice or care or tell, you know. And a lot of people are reading those absolutes. That's the first way they read that material, and they probably don't even know that it's recolored. I think in volume 3, Steve Olive talks about in the back his methods to his madness as far as why he colored things a certain way. But inking, I think, would be way less noticeable. And to be honest, Marvel has through their Masterworks program, have a history of touching up lines which is re-inking things, not in a dramatic way where they're like adding feathering lines to something that didn't have feathering lines. They're really just touching up the black lines to make them more pronounced and things. But I think it'd be less noticeable. I think it would annoy me if it was like a dramatic difference. But The Killing Joke and Year One absolutes are among the best for this reason. I love them putting both out there at the very least. I agree. In one book, if they ever do that, an absolute edition, I would love to see Flex Metallo done in that treatment, because the single issues, again, very similar to Killing Joke and Year One, and Tatiana Wood's coloring on the Swamp Thing. The original coloring for Flex Metallo had much more of a kind of a psychedelic comic book coloring to it. And then when they recolored it for the deluxe edition, they did the more natural browns and greens and things that I absolutely hate. I don't know why they recolored it that way. But so if they do an absolute edition of that, I'd prefer them to, but I don't know if they will. You really do talk about the colorist a lot and are very consistent and fair in your opinion. Thank you, Badger Stump. Thank you for joining me and for having my back on that. Harvey convinced me to not read Swamp Thing. Josh, they released a box set of the trade paperbacks for that run with the original coloring, so go get those. I heard a rumor you were going to war with Omnidog on Omnidog's Vault this weekend because Omnidog never finished all of Justice League International Omnibus. Any comment? Oh, see, thank you for letting me know. I didn't realize I was walking into a war zone, but I am appearing on Omnidog's Vault on Saturday night. I think at 8 p.m. Is the show. And I think the topic is we're going to update our reading goals. We did a show, the first show of the year for Omnidog's Vault for Batter Days. And we talked about our comic book reading goals for the year. And I'm assuming we're doing an update on that. I think that's what we're doing. Anytime I get to talk to Jess, though, it's a great time. He's one of my favorite people to talk to about comics. I love being on his show. I wish I was on his show more often. But he hasn't finished JLI. That's news to me, too. I was going to ask him on the show. I didn't realize he hadn't finished that yet. He's had that book for like 2 years now. What's his deal? Yeah, I'll be ready to go to war with him. But I'm the kind of weirdo that has the absolute Swamp Things, kept my original hardcovers for the coloring. I would... Past Taylor would have normally done that. I didn't mind having things in different owning things in different formats like that in the past. But now with shelf space and things, I'm trying to hone down my collection, and I try not to own anything in multiple formats. So yes, I just have the absolute editions is the only way I own it. But like I said, if they did a omnibus edition or 2-volume omnibus edition or whatever with the original coloring, I would sell my absolutes instantly. Is your son still drawing comic pages? He is, not as rapidly and often as he used to, but he is working on a manga. He's a fiend for manga. He loves manga. He argues with me that it's better than comics, even though I try to tell him it's the exact same thing. But it's just, he's just at that age. But he's trying to draw a legitimate manga too. He wants it to read right to left. It's very strange, but also interesting. And I'm glad that he's trying to take on that challenge. But yeah, he's still drawing. He's got a series in mind that he's trying to work on. He's drawing all the character designs for. And so he works on that from time to time. But yeah. Panels with Pete. Hey, Taylor and folks, I'm going on vacation tomorrow for a little over a week. We'll be bringing Clementine number 3, Walden is a genius, and stack more. But now the fun is deciding what to grab. I love that. Whenever I go on a trip, I always try to bring stuff with me. I typically, my goal, I don't mind bringing books, like actual physical books with me. I'm not that kind of like, I throw omnibuses and absolute editions in my backpack and take them on the go. I'm not that precious with them. Like some people are like, my omnibus doesn't leave my house. But whenever I go on a trip, I do typically read digitally just from the ease of it. And what I usually do is I try to load up a series that I have not read, like a bit longer series, onto my iPad and read it. Like that's how I read Saga years ago. Black Science, I read that way years ago. I'm trying to think. What was the last one I did? Transmetropolitan. That's what it was. The last trip that we went on a couple years ago, I loaded Transmetropolitan on my iPad to read for the first time. And it's my way of like reading it, to sample it, and then also to see if I want to own it physically. And so far, I think every series I've done that with, Descender, I didn't buy physically afterwards. I did do that one year, Descender and Ascender, and I liked it. I just didn't feel the need to buy it physically. But Transmetropolitan, I absolutely loved, and I had the first 2 volumes of the Absolute. The volume 3 got reprinted earlier a couple months ago, and then has been restocked. So I still need to pick up volume 3 of that. Well, the layman is an idiot who would request faster horses if they had their way. I don't disagree. I mean, I don't disagree. Tyler Smith, thank you for joining me. Afternoon. Here's Dana. Re-inking would be a big problem if it was like Neil Adams re-inking his own work. That's true. That's a good example. Many of the people collecting this work remember how it looked when they first saw it. That's a good example. As far as recoloring too, Walter Simonson, the recoloring on his work for the Omnibus edition, and Frank Miller's Daredevil, both of those kind of annoyed me to where I don't own those anymore. I'm going to buy the Epic collections when they come out for those runs because they'll have more faithful coloring to the original. It'll still be like that Marvel Masterworks treatment, but it won't be that modernized coloring with the extra shading and things that didn't exist back then that annoy me with reading those runs. Comics Boy, WT. I don't know. What does that mean? But thank you for joining me. Omnidog's Vault. That's where I will be appearing on Saturday. Bad Omnidog. I know JLI is a great run. And so the story behind that is I read JLI on Omnibus probably 2 years before I implored Jess to buy it. And I loved it. But one of the things coming out of it was that I knew that Jess hated JLI. Like that's one, like I remember him saying like, I read that back in the day when it was first coming out and absolutely hated it. It wasn't for me. So then I read the Omnibus and I was like, this seems like such a Jess Bragg, such an Omnidog book. It's got like a vast cast of characters from the DC universe that he loves. It's like funny, but heartfelt. Like the characters are like fleshed out and like deep, but it's also like very funny and kind of I don't know. It just seems like such an Omnidog book. So I went to him. I'm like, this seems like such a comic that's up your alley. Why did you not like it? And then he gave it a shot, and I think he's enjoying it for the most part so far. But yeah, I was gifted that book, and yeah, it's bad. Oh, the Neil Adams book. The colorist on both versions of Flex Metallo is the same guy. Fun fact. Yeah, I forget the name. I only had the dust jacket here, so the colorist is not credited. It wasn't Frank Quietly that colored it, right? The actual book itself is upstairs, or else I would look at it. Oh no, actually, it's right here. Let's pull this baby out. By the way, this series is amazing. Flex Metallo by Grant Morrison, Frank Quietly. Sorry. Peter Doherty is a colorist, with Ellie DeVille as a letterer. Amazing series, though. Absolutely love this. Every time I read it, I pull different things from it and fall in love with it even more. Grant Morrison, great writer. They were one of my favorite writers. I just finished actually Super Gods, the audiobook, for like the 4th time in my life. I listen to that book frequently. It's one of my favorite things to listen to. And I just finished it this morning. What is the best old comics TI? Could you clarify your question? Oh, wait, I think you did later on. Okay. Hopefully the forthcoming Batman omnibus will avoid that. I agree with that. Comic Boy Crazy Cat. What is the best European comic? Best European comic. The first thing that came to my mind when you said that was the Incal. I think the art and writing in that is absolutely brilliant. Anything by Jodorowsky, I love. I have some videos on my channel showing off Alejandro Jodorowsky. European comics. I'm trying to think if I have any down here. I'd say the Incal came to mind, but I also love Tintin's great. I love Tintin. I'm drawing a blank here. Anything with Mobius or Jodorowsky. Meta Barons is great too. You should show him manhwa. They are Korean comics that read left to right and published that way for the Japanese market. You mean right to left or left to right? I think you mean right to left, right? I have shown him those though, because we go to Barnes and Noble quite a bit, and he loves the manga section there because the comic book section is like this big, and the manga section is like, a monolith. But the last section of it, like they have like all the manga that like wraps around multiple walls, and then there's a section of manhwa and light novels. He's not so into the light novel idea, but the manhwa showed him, and he is interested in those. But I don't know, are there any all ages manhwa that he could read? Because that's one thing he has trouble with too, is like finding all ages manga. Right now, we're trying to read My Hero Academia, and I'm trying to read like one volume ahead of him to see that it's appropriate, because that's the responsibility of a parent, I guess. Because it's rated teen, but I don't know if it's only rated teen for violent content or if it's language or sexual content or whatever. So I read that a volume ahead of time with him to make sure it's still appropriate as we go on. But he always looks on the back of the Viz manga, the tankobons, and they have like their age rating. And he always gets frustrated with how many times it says teen rather than all ages. Yeah, I do feel I need to read some of those since a pillar. Yes. Have you read Seth's Clyde fans? Any thoughts if you have? I have. I do. It might be upstairs. Yeah, I think it's upstairs. I have the slipcase for Clyde. I love Seth. Seth's great. I don't own any of his Palookaville single issues or single volumes. I need this one thing I want to pick up because he is a cartoonist that I want to own a lot of things from. But like Wimbledon Green's absolutely fantastic. I love Wimbledon Green. Anything to do with Seth style. My son, speaking of my son though, he was starting to read the prequels of a series of unfortunate events, and Seth did the illustrations in those books. Like he did the cover design and the illustrations on the inside, which are like, there's only like one illustration every 8 to 10 pages or whatever. But yeah, I love Seth's work. Great stuff. Thor Recolor was so much better than the original. That's a horrible take, Josh. Jeez, I disagree. I took the Ed Gein and Dr. Worthless books for me to read on the train to London last week. They were interesting reads, very similar in nature, but books I'll be going back to. Will likely sell. Oh, but not books I'll be going back to. I will likely sell. Ed Gein, I did read last year. A video on that for my 31 Days of Horror Comics, which I did last October. I'll be doing it again this October. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know if I will revisit though. That's a good thought. I borrowed it from my library. I don't own a copy. Dr. Worthless though, I'm waiting for a copy to come in for that, and I can't wait to read it because Frederick Wortham and the whole history behind that is something I'm very fascinated by. I love Eric Powell's work as well. The Goon is one of my favorite series of comics, so I'll be interested to see how a comic about Frederick Wortham, Dr. Worthless, would be. I couldn't agree more on Morrison and Super Gods. Yeah, Super Gods is great. If you have not read it or listened to the audiobook is narrated. I wish it was narrated by Morrison. Like, that'd be amazing. Morrison is one of those guys like Alan Moore. Like, anytime I see an interview or a video of them, I can just listen to them talk all day. Like, if I could just sit in a room and listen to Grant Morrison talk for 8 hours, I'd be in heaven. But so I wish he did the narration for it, but he doesn't. But it's done by a British gentleman, so not Scottish. I was clarified by one of my Scottish friends that he was not Scottish. He's just English. But it still has that kind of vibe to it. But Super Gods is like part Grant Morrison's memoir, part history of comics, and like the history of comics interpreted by Grant Morrison. And it's just fascinating. Like, so it's totally like, it's got Grant Morrison's opinion in it throughout. It's not like this linear history of comics at all. It's like the history of comics through Morrison's eyes / his experience / or their experience, I'm sorry, / their series that they've written over the years. Absolutely fascinating. I listen to it probably once a year at least, all the way through. And anytime I listen to it, I just get into this Morrison kick where I want to read more of his books. Peter Doherty, yes, that is a colorist. Warlock Nemesis is nuts. Judge Dredd, Tintin, Asterix. These are European comics that Josh is recommending. Absolutely. Nemesis, I want to read that. I love Kevin O'Neill's artwork so much, and I just have not picked up the volumes for that yet. I need to pick those up. And Slain is another one I need to read. Also written by the guy from 2000 AD. What's his name? Peter Mills. Pat Mills wrote Slain and also Nemesis Warlock. Jodorowsky is Chilean. Yeah, he is Chilean. You're correct. But most of his comics were released in Europe. And I think he lived in France for a good portion of his life. Correct. He is Chilean originally. Yes, you're correct. Koreans read left to right. Okay, interesting. Is your wife into comics? No, absolutely not. She's read some comics. She read a lot of the newspaper strips, Pearls Before Swine by Stefan Pastis that I love a lot. And I'm trying to think of other comics she might have read. She had a reading day because she's a teacher. She had a reading day, and I gave her Adrian Tomanet's the long distance cartoonist. I gave her that book to read, thinking she'd enjoy it for that day, and she read a lot of it, and she's like, "Yeah, that was really good." But she mostly likes to read prose novels. Manhwa is full color. Oh, my son would enjoy that then. Oh, Jacques Tardy. There we go. Is a European creator, but still doesn't get enough credit. Such varied, incredible work. I love Mobius, Droulet, wild sci-fi stuff too. But Tardy is, yes, Jacques Tardy is one I really enjoy. I own, I think, like 5 or 6 of his books from Fantagraphics, but they've done like 17. He's the one of the cartoonists I'm trying to collect everything from. But yeah, he's very versatile. Like, his war comics are what I first read. GD This War and what's the other one? I was going to say War is Hell, but that's not right. Oh, War in the Trenches. War of the Trenches. I read both those. Blown away. I love war comics. But then I read some of his crime comics, like a sniper lining up a shot. I'm drawing blanks on the actual names here. Absolutely love those as well. But I need to pick up more of those from Fantagraphics. And the Droulet, mind-blowingly good. I have the box set for him. I need to do a video on that one. And did I miss anybody? I do not know on all ages. I know it's one of those things that, like, if you're not a parent yourself, you don't think about. Even as a parent, I'll have other parents ask me, like, "Is that appropriate?" I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't really reading it for thinking, like, will this be enjoyable for a child? I was reading it for my own experience. So I always just implore parents, if they have asked me those questions, like, here's what I think, but you should probably read it yourself. I have a strong opinion on parents needing to take responsibility for their own censorship for the children. I think rating systems are good, just to guide you, but I think you should still, as a parent, experience whatever it is, a movie, TV show, reading, whatever it is, to determine if you feel like it's appropriate for your child. And every kid's different. Like one thing that me and my wife don't really care so much about is my son watching content with bad words, because he doesn't really repeat bad words. That's just not an issue that we've ever had with him. So like I don't mind that kind of content, but like scary things I do mind, just because he gets scared easily and has nightmares. Violence, mind a little bit. Sexual content definitely want to avoid, but every kid's different though. Some parents might have kids that violence isn't a thing at all, and they don't mind them, they don't get scared easily, so they can watch Stranger Things, which is wild. My son in like 3rd grade got invited to a birthday party, and it was Stranger Things themed. It's like, what 3rd graders are watching Stranger Things? But that's the world we live in. I think every child's different, and parents should parent them as such. Asterix are the first comics I ever read, actually. I had a bunch of them since I was in kindergarten and couldn't wait to learn to read in order to be able to read them. So I started collecting the Asterix because I've not read a lot of Asterix in my life. I started collecting them in those paper cuts volumes, the new volumes in the hardcover. And For the Love of Comics, actually, we talked about him last week. It's one of my favorite YouTubers. Did a translation comparison video, which is a great video, where he compared the translation from the originals to the new translation with the paper cuts. And one, it's a great, it's proof that translation does matter, that it's not like translators do matter, as far as like there is a talent in a artistic liberty to it. You can't just assume that translators are spitting out of a computer like a Google Translate or anything. Like they actually do make decisions based on interpretations and things. And the new translations for the paper cuts volumes, I guess, like kill a lot of like the wordplay jokes throughout them. For the Love of Comics, again, the video that he did shows all this, and that's really annoying to me. So any Asterix I picked up, I've tried to pick up the old albums for them, and I have a few, and they are a lot of fun. Tardy Rules. Yorgos Lanthimos is supposed to be adopting a Manchette book, one Tardy didn't do. I'm really psyched for it. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Yorgos Lanthimos' work. Yeah, Tardy did do a lot of Manchette books. It's where a lot of his crime stuff comes from. Attilio Michiluzzi, too. I'll cite him as a European cartoonist that I enjoy, or at least have started to enjoy. Fantagraphics released one collection of him so far, and another collection of his has come out later this year. Wait, what? Oh, I don't know what that's referring to. Hello, Space Monkey. Thank you for joining me. It's true. It's planned, but who knows if it's actually happening? You know how these things go. With the bad takes, say it isn't so. Oh, Tyler's jumping in on the bandwagon to tell Josh that he has a terrible take. I understand Dr. Wortham better after reading Dr. Worthless and hate him more than ever. Yeah, it was the whole crock with Dr. Wortham and his battling of comic books. It's literally almost killed comic books. And if anything, set the comic books back for years to decades. Like we had such a rich comic book medium with like comic books for people of all shapes, sizes, ages, flavor, like everything, like romance comics. Like women were reading comics by the hundreds of thousands during that time. Adult women and adult men were reading them. And then Frederick Wortham came in with this dumb crusade that had no basis whatsoever, and killed it to where comics were then forced to be made for children. And then comics had this like stamp on them where people were like, you read comics, like those are children's picture books. Like it had like that stamp on it for years, decades. And I feel like just now, today, we're finally getting to the point where outside of the superhero genre, we're getting a lot of comics that people are reading. And it's amazing. And now with people like Raina Telgemeier and Dave Pilkey, like kids are growing up on these comics now, which is fascinating to me because I feel like this next generation of cartoonists, these next generation of comics makers, coming up in the next 10, 15 years, are going to have a whole different lens of things that they look at, because for all this time, for the last 30, 40 years, all the cartoonists and people coming into comics basically came into comics via reading superhero comics, right? But before that, with like even the underground guys like Robert Crumb was never into superheroes at all. He grew up on like Carl Barks and like Funny Animal comics and those kinds of things. And then he went and started making comics from that. So like his interpretation of comics in the lens that he went through with his career was based on off of what he read as a kid. And so it's going to be fascinating to see this next generation of cartoonists and them coming out of reading these things. That is a weird tangent, I guess. That was relevant, right? I have that effect. Haha. It's Fatale by Manchette. Main character being a great role for Emma Stone as an assassin. Okay. I haven't read Worthless, but I know that man was nuts. He was. In addition to Mobius, I would throw in Droulet, Creepax, Bilal, Dread 2000 AD, and so many more. Humanoids was a great resource. I was getting into European comics many years ago. Yeah, Humanoids is great. Bilal's great. Super Laughard sent me some books from him. I still need to read and review some of those on my channel. And then Creepax. Yeah, Fantagraphics has been doing a great printing of all of Creepax's stuff. I've got Fatale by Manchette, but I'm not read it yet. You've reminded me to get on it. Nemesis rules. I don't know why I don't think of Kevin O'Neill as a European. I don't know why either. I love Kevin O'Neill, though. His work is amazing. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is one of my favorite comic book series ever. His work on with Pat Mills on what's the name of the well, I'll look this up. Harvey, you also turned me on to Kevin O'Neill's Green Lantern work, which I wish was properly collected. I think it's in the Alan Moore DC collection, but I don't know if they collected everything. Martial Law. I love Martial Law from Kevin O'Neill and Pat Mills. I also have the Kevin O'Neill art book that I did a video on too from 2000 AD, which has a lot of Nemesis stuff in it, but also his Future Shocks and things. Oh yeah, Jordan Topi is insane. I've read a smattering of stunning art. Dana, I got to read it too. Done a ton of stuff here in the USA. Yeah, it's probably why I own Nemesis and Deluxe. So there's no excuse for me. Oh, geez. The hardcover, I've been trying to find those, but not easy. Need to read Smurfs. Yeah, Smurfs is done by Peyo, right? Who's a French cartoonist. Yeah, the recent ones, which Paper Cuts has been reprinting those as well. Get to the first two paperbacks, found the third hardcover. All right, Sergio, you should do more interviews with comic artists and or writers. I do want to do that. I do want to I'm going to have Josh Greyhouse on. He's going to be a cartoonist comics maker that I'll have on to talk about Bang Ballad of the Tiger, volumes 1 and 2, which will be available on the Kickstarter coming out August 25th is when that Kickstarter launches with the volume 3. So you'll be able to pick up let me get this right. Volume 1, volume 2, and then volume 3. And we'll have Josh on to talk about that. I also have an overview of both these books on my channel on August 25th. Josh will be on my channel August 27th for the interview on Taylor Talks Comics Live. But I want to do that more. My dream idea for the show is for it to be like this 2-hour-long show where I cover the news, talk to you guys, and have like 1 or 2 guests on for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then the rest of the show is me talking to you guys. Kind of like Ariel Helwani is like MMA Hour. Like Ariel Helwani is a journalist I enjoy quite a bit, and I love his show and his format. I'd love to have a comic book version of that because it doesn't exist. So yeah. When I was 11, I got carded in soccer for swearing. Oh, see? Just the issue. I had a RoboCop toy when I was like 7. Well, RoboCop also had a Saturday morning cartoon, which is hilarious, and so did Rambo. Are the new Asterix covers a worthwhile upgrade? This is the video by For the Love of Comics. Everyone, go check that one out. It's a really if only to show you how important translation is, because even manga has been translated by different people, like Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball. I started reading that, and I was reading in the old editions that was translated by Gerard Jones, which was an awkward way of reading it. Just some of the jokes and it's like some of the jokes in those early volumes too. I was like, being filtered through Gerard Jones was just really gross for me, and it kind of killed the reading experience for me. But then I found out in the newer editions, the Visbig editions, they've been retranslated by someone else. So I kind of want to give that series a new shot, having been translated by someone else. But translation matters. I understand Dr. Worthless better after reading Dr. Worthless and hate him more than ever. Like you understand his motivations better, but also hate him. I can see that being an interesting thing. I can't hear your audio or video. I'm just here to show support to Tayman. Don't show too much support, else he'll make you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. Great movie, by the way. And I think I'm not having audio and video issues. I'm assuming from all the comments. I think he's just saying he has me on mute, which is fine. Working on my end. You're the best, Josh. I'm at work, or else I would have it lit up the chat more. Well, thank you for your support anyways, little hit. I appreciate that, but not according to Smithsonian. What's that comment to? Is that worth them? They don't have the stuff Kevin O'Neill did with Todd Klein as the author in that Moore collection. See, that's what we need collected. Here's a Kickstarter. You can bookmark that August 25th for when it comes out. Bookmark it so that you are reminded when it launches. Oh, that's fun. So Josh put it in right after James. James beat him to the punch. Also, did you receive Witchman Scioli yet, Tayman? How is it? I'm not. I need to find a copy of Witchman by Tom Scioli. He's one of my favorite cartoonists going today, and that's one of the few works of his that I don't have. He has a new graphic novel coming out this month, though. It's called like Xanadon, the space opera or something or other. It looks amazing. It's classic Tom Scioli. Why don't I show it off on the channel? Does he have sample pages on here? Let me see. We're 47 minutes into the show. We have not done any sort of comic book news, so this isn't breaking news by any means. It's just Tom Scioli, his new comic coming out later this month, but it's worth talking about nonetheless. If you go on Tom Scioli's Instagram, he's showing off a lot of sample pages. I'm trying to see space opera. If I can see like a press release or something. Okay, here we go. But I absolutely love and adore Tom Scioli's work. Anytime he comes out with a new comic book, I'm definitely going to be picking it up. He makes only fun comics, is what I always say. Tom Scioli makes the most fun comics. And got to fix my screen. All right, here we go. So this is Space Opera Xanadax, Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy, OGN, trade paperback, volume 1. So implying that there will be more volumes. Written, drawn, lettered, and colored by Tom Scioli in the solo creator auteur tradition. Into the strange new universe of Space Opera Xanadax Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy. The supercharged, cybernetically enhanced, brooding loner known as Xanadax is on a collision course with this crazy cosmic enemy number 1 on an armada of ruthless space pirates, slimy crime bosses, and deadly bounty hunters, an oppressive star-spanning empire, and an army of homicidal robots. Yeah, this is amazing. I cannot wait to pick this up and read it. It comes out the 20th, so next week. Definitely looking to pick that up for sure. Big Tom Scioli fan. James Abel beat you to it. Other for Europeans, Matthew Bablet, Shangri-La, Midnight Order. Oh, Midnight Order. I have that. I have the book right here. I'm not ready yet, but this was sent to me by Magnetic Press themselves. Magnetic Press does a lot of good European comics. This is a beautiful book. I can't wait to review this and talk about it on my channel. The slipcase even had a coin that pops out on it too. But I'll be showing this off on my channel. Yeah, but Matthew Bablet is awesome. I love his cartooning in here too. But I need to read this and do an overview of it still. Trying to find some cool pages. I love the color work in here too. It's actually got real true color to it. Here's an amazing page with a variety of colors for storytelling purposes. Yeah, so I'll be reviewing that on my channel as well. But thanks for the recommendation, Badger Stump. I'm glad you pointed that out. Clearly not paying Taylor enough. He keeps calling it Bing. Did I say Bing? Bang! Ballad of the Tiger. It could be I mumble sometimes. It could be the way I speak. Call it what you want if you buy it. Well, then I'll call it Bing. I love RoboCop. 2 RoboCop. I have 2 RoboCop 3.75-inch action figures on my table. One from Verhoeven OG and the other from the Joel Kinnaman movie. So that's the Frank Miller written script, the Joel Kinnaman movie. I'm a huge fan of RoboCop, though. The Paul Verhoeven trilogy of RoboCop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers needs to be read or needs to be watched by everyone for sure. I absolutely love those movies. Oh, like you know, none U.S. comics, sir. Tom Scioli has been killing it lately. So many awesome releases. I agree. Scioli is all digital now. Kind of sad. No more crayon layer. Yeah, he does work mostly digital now, and it does change a little bit of his artwork, right? But I don't know. I feel like he would change. He'll evolve over time, his style, because his style is not like pure Kirby. Like his early style with like Godland and stuff is like pure like cover band of Jack Kirby. And now like the Kirby stuff still exists in his artwork, but he's definitely evolved beyond that. So maybe he'll go back to practical one day. The Space Odyssey looks fun. Yeah, it looks like a 80s Canon Films type movie, or a comic book version of that. On the correct side of the Atlantic, you're surprised that I'm all European. Space Monkey. Don't know if it's true, but it feels like European comics is having a minor upswing here in Sweden with the publisher Cobalt publishing a number of classic series and nice collected editions. It's great to hear. Oh, Jason. I'm a huge fan of Jason. I have his new book that's coming out from Fantagraphics. I have my early review copy over here. Huge fan of Jason. I have almost all his work. Just giving it grief. Jason Norwegian? Never knew that. Wait, is that true? You didn't know that he was Norwegian? So one thing I like to do on my show too is show off some things I hold lately. So over the last week, my wife and I and son went to some Barnes & Noble and Half Price Books. But I got volume 9 of 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. I always say that name wrong. And I needed this because I only had the first 8 volumes, and I've only read the first 8 volumes. And I've read the volumes 1 through 3 like a few times because I think this is a series you have to read all the way through to really enjoy it. So every time I reread it or go to reread it, I have to start over. But one of my goals this year is I don't know if I'll meet this, but I'm going to do my 31 days of horror comics in October. My goal is to have all those videos done and recorded before October 1st to have them ready to go. And then all of October, I want to spend my time reading 20th Century Boys. So I need to pick up volume 10 and then volume 10, 11, and then 21st Century Boys. I think is that correct? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So I think there's 3 volumes I still need to pick up. I think 10, 11, and 21st Century Boys. Or is it just 10 and 21st Century Boys is the 11th volume? I don't know, but I'll pick them up and try to read the whole series all the way through. Amazing series. Truly some of the best comics I've ever read. I don't know how it ends. I don't know if he sticks to the landing or not. I'll find out this October, hopefully. But yeah, so I picked up volume 9. Is at Barnes & Noble, and I needed it. Also picked up these from Half Price Books. This was an awesome duo of comics. But Omega the Unknown, both the modern series and the classic series. Omega the Unknown is one of my favorite weird superheroes, if you've never read him. Classic Steve Gerber. Steve Gerber is one of my favorite writers ever. Like he only wrote like really weird stuff, and I absolutely loved and adored every minute of it. And Omega the Unknown was not any different than that. And he co-wrote most of it with Mary Screens, who was his partner at the time. But classic Bronze Age Marvel stuff. Omega the Unknown is truly a weird superhero. And he only lasted 10 issues, and then they got canceled, but then they wrapped up his story in a couple issues of Defenders, 76 and 77. And those were written by someone else. I think Roger Stern wrote one of them and someone else. But fun, weird comics, though. And I found this trade paperback at Half Price Books. But then also, I'm assuming the same person probably sold this to him as well. I've read this as well. There's a glare on it. Omega the Unknown. This is a modern series by Jonathan Lethem, but illustrated by Farrell Dalrymple, colored by Paul Hornschemeyer. So really interesting that this is a standard size hardcover, a weird kind of edition. It's got like this fabric cover to it. It's like one of the weird like art projects that Marvel actually allows different things to be done with the collected edition. Even like the in papers are different. And I used to have the single issues of this, and I got it based on the fact that I loved Omega the Unknown and I love Farrell Dalrymple. And I wanted to see how it compared to the classic series. So I think I'll probably do a video on my channel comparing the two series, and talk about how they're similar and different. But awesome that Farrell Dalrymple, this like indie cartoonist, came to Marvel and did this weird character. Like if I ever was able to pitch a series to Marvel, I always talk about I have a Rick Jones series that I've got in my head that I want to pitch to Marvel one day. But if I ever got to pitch like a series or something, a long ongoing series, it would include Omega the Unknown, bringing him back. But not that I have like, those are my things that I'd enjoy. And then the last thing I hold, well, actually not the last thing. I hold two more things, but I got the first issue of Taboo. So I talked about this on my channel last week, how I'm trying to collect all the issues of Taboo. I got the first volume. It's got a Charles Burns story in here, which is cool. Which I don't know if it's ever been released elsewhere, this Charles Burns story. And then it's got stuff in here by Eddie Campbell. Charles Vess has a series in here. Here's Charles Vess artwork. And, S. Clay Wilson. S. Clay Wilson has a series in here. Famous underground cartoonist from Zap Comics. And I love this because, like, there's an editorial by Steve Bissett, who was the editor on this magazine, and it's printed through his publisher, Spider Baby Graphics, until it eventually went to Kitchen Sink / Tundra. And he writes the intro of what Taboo means to him and how he loves that comics can push the envelope on things. And then before each series, before each strip in the anthology, because it's an anthology title, he writes a little editorial about the cartoonist and writers and things and how he enjoys them. Alan Moore writes a story in here. I think I don't know, but it's good stuff. I'm going to do an overview of Taboo on my channel in October. So as far as Taboo goes, I'm still missing issue 2, 3, and then the Especial issue, which is like their special issue. So I'm missing 3 more. But that's it. That's all I hold. Next week, I will have an overview of this as well from Fantagraphics. This is a little bit of a different book. This is the Evergreen Review, covers and essays from the Literary Underground. Evergreen was this music / pop culture underground magazine from back in the 60s, 70s. And this is a collection including like oral history and things. So it's not comics at all. Like it's all like essays and magazine material. But it will be published by Fantagraphics. They sent me out a review copy. It's been fun to read this. I used to subscribe to like 15 different music magazines back in my early 20s. But I never read Evergreen. It only lasted 16 years. It was done being a magazine by 73, much before I was born. So it was fun to read this kind of bit of history. And I think that's it for holds and things. Let's get back to the chat. See what you guys are talking about. Stomach gave me grief. Jason and Region, never knew that. Hey, 20th Century Boys. Yes, it's complex, but Neil's Elaine. Oh, that's good to hear. It's amazing. Like, and the thing that, like, you always hear people say like certain artists have like same face syndrome, and Urasawa absolutely does not. And when you're working in black and white, like most manga is, you can't have same face syndrome because your characters are going to blend together. And the amazing and brilliant thing about his artwork in this is that he works with these characters through all different ages. Like you'll see them as children, as the early 20s, as grown adults, and you never mix up who's who. Like the character that when you see them as an adult, because you've only ever seen them as a kid, you know exactly who it is. It's a brilliant artwork, but the story is too. It's super complex. I almost feel like it's like Urasawa grew up loving Akira and then like built upon that and with layers, and that's kind of what 20th Century Boys reminds me of, because it's like you get a lot of cult stuff in there, a lot of gangs, a lot of like mystical, like like overlords, or not overlords. I'm trying to think of a word. Just like leaders in the world and things, and people that worship them, and people don't work. Like, it's very fascinating. I highly recommend Billy Bat as my favorite Urasawa series. I'd love to read that, but it's never been properly translated into English, right? I think there's only been like scanlation translations of it. I'd love to read that though. 10, 11, then 21st Century Boys. So I need 3 more volumes. 10, 11, 21st Century Boys. And I think those are in print still, these perfect editions, which are great. They have like a connecting spine image on it when you put them together. The next series I want to read from Urasawa is Pluto. I've never read that, which is a travesty, but I think that's what I'll probably read after 21st Century Boy or 20th Century Boys. And I also want to read Monster. I've not read that before. And then what's the new one that he's doing? They're still working on Asadora. So yeah, I have a lot of Urasawa to explore. The Italian comics series Text, created by Gianluigi Bonelli and illustrator Aurelio Galappini. I think that's getting a box set through Kickstarter soon. I need to explore that though. I am interested in that. I got the Masterworks of Omega. It's great. Yeah, I thought I almost wanted to pick that up because that is a great Masterworks to own because it's one and done. I don't know that it collects anything different from this. Let me know, Badgerstone. This collects Omega the Unknown 1 and 10, and then Defenders 76 and 77. I don't think there was any other appearances by him. What's the Charles Burns story called? Where did I put that? Oh, it's right here. I think Harvey's going to help me out and tell me if this is included in any collections of Charles Burns. It is Contagious is what it's called. Great title lettering in this too. I want to show that off. Charles Burns is always has great title lettering because he letters his own work, but let me get to it. Charles Burns, where are you? I can't find it. Sorry, I know this is boring. Look at that. I don't know if you can see the detail in that title lettering, but brilliant title lettering. S. Clay Wilson Fantagraphics collections are great. I have all 3 volumes over there, and I agree. Those are beautifully designed. They're chock full of essays and biography stuff. They're exactly what I want to collect when there's like a monograph of a cartoonist where it has like part biography, part comics. Those collections are absolutely great. It's Contagion. Oh, well, thank you, Jordan. The Italian series. Wait. Okay. Words. Oh, like the essays and stuff in here. They're fun to read. It's Bassett talking about waxing poetic about these different cartoonists and things. I don't mind words. Jordan. Oh, cool. That's the black hole precursor. Yes, that's what it is. Contagious. It's the not the prequel of Black Hole, but like the pilot episode, perhaps. Inspector Coke trilogy from Epicenter. Nice from hell feeling, I thought. Correction. It's really cool. Proto Black Hole, and it's the Teen Plague parallel. Black Hole is my favorite horror comic of all time, so it was fun to read that. That's my first time reading that 4-page strip. It should finally be put out that planned 4th Charles Burns collection. I've not heard about that. What is that from Fantagraphics? I wish they'd reprint their old Charles Burns collections. I recommend Urasawa Monster. Asadora is great. Jess would love Asadora. It's a shame. I know. I wish you'd read more manga. Good, Yvonne, Taylor Talks Comics. Is that? I don't know what that means. Thank you, Axel Plate, for joining me, though. Burns said there wasn't enough material for a 4th volume. I thought that sounded wrong, so I spent the last year making it myself, and there was, in fact, enough for another volume. Oh, touche, Charles Burns. Yeah, there's certainly more than enough now. That collection must be dope. There's been a newer version of a Mega the Unknown character in some annuals a few years ago. Oh, really? Like not talking about the Pharaoh Dalrymple series, but he appeared in a different series. Masterworks has the same 1 through 2. Yes, that's the same content. Okay. Let's get to some news while we're on the show, while you guys are still filling in the chat. Thank you for joining. Conversation is great. I kind of love when I don't have to share any news and we can just chat comics. I do let you guys guide the conversation a little bit, but I want to show off some things that I'm excited about. One thing, let's go to Tales of Paranoia. Share screen. I do have a video on my channel showing off the recent Fantagraphics catalog. If one of the moderators wants to share that for me in the chat, that dropped. I think it was Monday night. Yeah, Monday night I got the tip that it was doing it, so I recorded it right away and released that Tuesday morning. The video Tuesday morning. One of the things I talked about though in that video was the Tales of Paranoia by Robert Crumb. The first Crumb comic in 23 years. And I think the distinction there, Harvey talked about that in my Discord, which I do have a Discord if you want to join the chat there. That information is down below in the description. But the distinction is it's the first single issue comic book that Robert Crumb has done wholesale all himself, every bit of it. Although even that's not true because there's a script written in here by Aileen Kaminsky Crumb. But I don't know. Whatever. I don't get bogged down by these distinctions of the first comic book in 23 years. The important thing is we're getting new comic book material by Crumb, who's 81 years old. There's 12 short stories in the single issue comic book. I love the format. I love that he's going back to the format that he cherished and broke, cut his teeth on. Even the earliest days of Zap, that was a one-man anthology when it first started, before he started bringing in the whole gang and gaggle of other underground cartoonists in. So I love that he's in this format again. 36 pages, black and white, standard size comic book, $5.99, due out November 5th, a few days before my birthday. So that's exciting too, that we're going to get that. I love the cover treatment here. It's kind of done in like an Atlas Comics era homage. Well, really fun. And then another one I want to talk about is, let's get to, this one just came on my radar this morning. So had I done the show yesterday, I would not have talked about this because I didn't know about it until today. So this one is a new comic by Matt Kent, who's one of my favorite comic book writers, and David Rubin. And David Rubin is a comic book artist that I really, really enjoy. It's going to be from Flux House Comic Books, or Flux House Books, which is the imprint, Matt Kent's imprint through Dark Horse Comics. It's a one-of-a-kind science fiction odyssey and the brainchild of one of comics' most creative all-star teams. So Matt Kent and David Rubin both worked on Ether together and both worked on Cosmic Detective together with Jeff Lemire. I have a video on my channel showing off Cosmic Detective, which was an amazing, it was like Blade Runner meets Jack Kirby's Eternals. Like, it's such a fun series. And it was a jam comic where it was like Matt Kent would write a page and then Jeff Lemire would write a page, and then Matt Kent would write a page and Jeff Lemire would write a page, and then went back and forth like that. And then David Rubin had to do all the artwork for it. Really, really fun series. Check out my video on that if you want to see it. But this is called Space Scouts. Here's a couple of covers. So Matt Kent, I love his writing. I love David Rubin's artwork. And this is going to be, what do they call it? Ender's Game meets Big Brother. In Big Brother, they mean the reality TV show. So, and it's going to be in magazine-sized format. So it's going to be 8 inches by 10.875 inches, 32 pages per issue, with variant covers by Sergio Aragones, Brian Hurt, and Alvaro Martinez Bueno. Sergio Aragones doing a variant cover sounds awesome. Trying to see. The series can best described as Ender's Game meets Big Brother. They mean Big Brother like the reality TV show. I guess it's going to be about a reality TV show called Space Scouts, where you go and try to become the next Space Scout. And Matt Kent in the press release here even says, it's a dream project that David and I had for a long time. I'm going to tell a story that centers around thousands of teenage superheroes recruited to save the universe. Gives us a chance to let our creativity run wild with different superpowers and aliens tied to a competition reality show. As a longtime fan of the crazy 1950s Superboy covers, this scratches that inspirational itch. And then he says, there hasn't been a visual artist as inventive and energetic as David since Jack Kirby. He channels that same bonkers energy without being derivative in the least. I don't, you don't see people often compared to Jack Kirby. I always kind of appreciate that nobody has tried to name anybody else as the king of comics, because Jack Kirby has that, and he solely should have that. I don't disagree with the fact that David Rubin's artwork is bonkers and fun and inventive. His panel layouts are really usually inventive and charged with that kind of energy. So I don't know if I'm ready to say that he's the most inventive artist since Jack Kirby, but still, this is a fun series and I want to pick it up. And then lastly, the next new comic I want to talk about is this one. This should create a fun conversation. So this is the Creator Collection. Number 1, Back to the Savage Land, Barry Windsor-Smith at Marvel, number 1. I talked about this in my catalog video, which I saw James posted the link to. Thank you. They are collecting, Fantagraphics is collecting all of Barry Windsor-Smith's Marvel work in 3 volumes. Now, I don't know if that's going to collect the Conan stuff. It does say pre-Conan work on X-Men, Avengers, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and Kazar will be in this volume. But I don't know if they'll have the rights to do the Conan stuff. I think they might just do only his Marvel IP character stuff, and that's fine. I'd love to have a Barry Windsor-Smith Conan collection restored by Fantagraphics. That'd be amazing. But if we can't, I love that we're having 3 volumes nonetheless, because this will eventually include his Machine Man series and his Weapon X series that he did with Marvel Comics Presents. And all of these comics will be restored again, talk about coloring, restored in the way that Fantagraphics does it, with not the oversaturated, garish coloring jobs that Marvel usually does on their collections. This will be more faithful to the original coloring. I don't know who's working on this project as far as the restoration goes. I'll try to find that out. And I don't know if the book design, I don't know if it's Ian Chalgren will be designing the books. I need to reach out to him and find out. But 352 pages. But it's going to include his individual stories for Chamber of Darkness, Tower of Shadows, which was collected in the first Lost Marvels volume, Avengers, Iron Man, Doctor Strange issues, and his Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. issues with Kazar. And then it says future volumes will trace Windsor-Smith's career through such milestones as Machine Man and Weapon X. It is mind-blowing to me that we are now, I've been saying this for as long as Marvel's been on this project, as far as doing the Atlas restoration and then the Lost Marvels, and how it opened certain doors for certain other projects in the future. But I always said that they're basically, it seems like they're going to be able to do anything that wasn't the Marvel IP characters. Like the Atlas era stuff's pre-superhero era. The Lost Marvel stuff seems to be collecting a lot of non-Marvel characters, even though the Howard Chaykin volume, which I just did a review on this past Monday, does include Dum Dum Dugan in some of the Dominic Fortune stories. But this is a whole new ball game. Fantagraphics is now reprinting Marvel IP. We have Taschen, we have Folio Society, and now Fantagraphics publishing this stuff. The door is open for any possibility at this point. So what I want to ask you guys is what creators would you like to see in a line like this? Like Barry Windsor-Smith's 3-volume set collecting all of his stuff from Marvel. What other creators would you like to see included? One that I've seen that was interesting that people have cited, it was Jim Steranko. So one thing I wanted to talk about was the possibility of a Jim Steranko collection. So I'm going to go to his Wikipedia here and go through his bibliography of Marvel work and what this could include. Because I would love a Jim Steranko collection done in the style of this Fantagraphics restoration. So for Marvel, not a lot, but we have Captain America 110, 111, and 113, plus the covers. That's like the trilogy of Steranko, where he kind of retcons Captain America and how like the public knew his identity. He retcons that for going forward for Gene Colan to take over. And that's collected in the first volume of the Omnibus for Captain America, which again, I have a video on. And it's an amazing trilogy of issues by Steranko. And then he did Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. He did 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Strange Tales, he did a lot of issues there. Okay. So Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., he did 4 issues there. And then Strange Tales, he did 3. And then 14, 20, about 20 stories from Strange Tales, which were only like 10 to 12 page strips. And then Tower of Shadows #1, which was in that first Lost Marvels. Then he did X-Men issues 50 and 51, and then the Foom cover there. X-Men, he actually designed the X-Men logo that we all know and love, like back in issue number 50 or whenever that debuted. That logo might have debuted before that, but whenever that new logo debuts, Stranko designed that logo, and they've used it ever since, or a variation of that. So I think Stranko would be a really good nominee for this. I'm seeing some in the chat. Bill Sienkiewicz. Bill Sienkiewicz would be a great one as well. Let's look up his bibliography for Marvel. I know he's done a bajillion covers for Marvel. I think that would be a whole collection in itself if they did that. These are all DC. So we got Alias. We did Avengers. So a lot of this he was just the inker on too. So this would be kind of hard. Obviously, Electro Assassin and Daredevil Love and War in the issues of New Mutants, the issues of Moon Knight would be, this would be a great collection. I agree. Sienkiewicz would be a good one. Let's get Sienkiewicz into the collection as well. Wally Wood. Wally Wood didn't, I don't think maybe for one, I don't even know if you'd have enough for one volume. Because he jumped into Marvel, was touted and celebrated as coming into Marvel, and then he left quite rapidly. I know he designed the suit for Daredevil that we all know and love, the all red suit. So we have Astonishing Tales 1 through 4. Okay. He was the inker on that one. Cat number 1 on his inker. Daredevil 5 through 11. Okay, so that's like 9 issues. Journey into Mystery, got a couple issues there. Journey into Unknown Worlds, that's an inker job. See, I don't think they'd collect the ones where he's only the inker. Marvel Tales 152, Mystic 52, Strange Tale. Oh, he's the inker on that one. Yeah, you could probably you could probably do a volume of Wally Wood. I could see that. Walter Simonson would be really hard, Josh. Mike Mignola would be a good one. Okay, let's go look at Mike Mignola's Marvel output, because he doesn't have a ton, but what he does have could fill out a volume. Let's see. He did a lot of great covers for the X-Men Classic series. He has that great issue of X-Force. Which, when you collect that, do you collect the pages that Rob Liefeld still did? Oh man, it's funny to me who does Wikipedia pages, because this one's not separated by publisher. But anyways, we have Rocket Raccoon. Okay, Amazing High Adventure. That's First Comics. That's DC. That's DC. Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, of course. The Triumph and Torment would be great to put in there. Wolverine, The Jungle Adventure, of course, put that in there. Baltimore. See, these are like spelled out in alphabetical order. This is all his Hellboy stuff, which is going to be like 400 pages, which is great, by the way, and that's not a complaint. And then all these covers. Yeah, Mike Mignola might get a nice slim volume. Are there anybody else? Let me know, though. Let me know. Let's keep that chat going. Those are some comic book projects that I want to talk about. Those 3 that I'm excited for. And then I'm going to go over the Harvey Awards in just a bit, but let's get updated with the chat here. See what you guys have been saying while I was going through those. He had a different name, but almost the same costume and powers. Oh, Omega the Unknown? I need to look that up. I'm not aware of that. And who was the writer on that? Interesting. Here's my fantagraphics video, and here's my Discord. Both important. Join the Discord. Also, Crumb's Genesis came out in 2009, but I guess Moses wrote that, so another loophole for the marketing team. Yeah, I don't care what they use to market it. It's the same way I feel about YouTube titles. Let me go on a small little rant here, because I fight this every day that I make YouTube content. So, and I've recently adopted this, and it's funny that at the first video I did it on, someone made this comment, and I wrote a long comment on it. It's my desert island video, my top 10 desert island choices video, if you want to read the comments. But the YouTube reaction thumbnail where someone's like, "Hey," or they're like, or they like read something they didn't like, so they're like angry, or they read something they loved, they're like, "Ah," or something that's scary, and like all those reaction thumbnails. I hate those. They drive me nuts. I don't like them. Especially when it's comic books. I forever had this mandate with my channel that I wanted the focus to be on the comics and not me as a personality. So my thumbnails were always oriented towards the comics. But I've since gotten over my own stubbornness about that and decided I'm going to do these stupid thumbnails that YouTube loves, because they really do really do better in the algorithm. I don't know why. I don't know why we as human beings would prefer to click on a video that has someone's facial reaction in it than an awesome cover of artwork. But it's proven. It's proven in my own videos. My videos do better when my stupid face is on the thumbnail. I don't know why. But the reason how I justified it in my own mind was that if I want a bigger spotlight put onto these comics, which is always the goal of this channel, I want to show off awesome comics that I think should deserve a bigger spotlight and people should check out, then I need to placate to the algorithm with things like that. So I do my stupid facial reactions in videos that are of my opinion, like a top 10 video or whatever. So they won't be every single video, but same thing with clickbait thumbnails or clickbait titles, like best comic book ever, or grossest comic book ever, or most controversial comic book ever. If that's what you have to do to get someone to click on the video and look at an awesome comic, by all means, whatever. Like it's cringy to me. I don't like it, but again, I'm just trying to show off cool comics. And if me having to do that does that, then whatever. Same thing with this though. If they have to sell this comic book by the first Crumb comic in 23 years, and they can like loophole and work around how that's accurate, then sure, it's gonna, maybe that will draw more attention to get more people to buy the Crumb comic. Ultimately, that's the goal, right? Ultimately, my goal is to show off cool comics. Ultimately, their goal is to sell comics. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that, though? Especially like the thumbnails, the facial reactions. I'm letting you guys know that, so whenever you see me do one of these stupid facial reaction thumbnails, you can say like, "Oh, that probably hurt Taylor doing that. He's probably annoyed that he had to do that, but I'll support him and click on the video anyways." I was just kidding. I haven't clicked buy so fast in ages. More Crumb and embarrassment of riches. I was lucky enough to get a copy of Sabe Cupid. I don't know how to pronounce that last year, and figured it would be the last time I saw new Crumb. I agree. I need more Crumb in my collection too. I don't have enough. I'm hoping they reprint the complete Crumb comics one day, and I will buy those. I try to collect those whenever I find them, and then I'm glad that like Fritz the Cat, I don't have a copy of that. I'm glad that's getting reprinted. Art and Beauty is being reprinted. I do want to get the Taschen sketchbooks. I want to get those too. What number did you get? I have 546. Speaking of Matt Kinn, I'm enjoying his collaboration with David Lapham. The Hero Trade. It's a seamless collab. Very much in the Lapham vein. Highly recommend it. Yes, I talked about that on my channel a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I have my copy here to show off, but oh yeah, actually it's right here. But David Lapham is great. Stray Bullets is one of the best crime comics of all time. And the Hero Trade, $12.99 for this thick trade, written by Matt Kent, drawn by David Lapham on beautiful newsprint paper and all in black and white artwork, which is where David Lapham, his art really sings. He's one of the few modern artists where I'm like, yeah, I prefer him in black and white. Besides like mangaka and things, but yeah, just like amazing, amazing stuff. I read most of the stuff when it was coming out in like the backup strips of Bad Idea and whatever. But some of this I haven't read yet. So I am excited to sit down and read the whole thing. Which sport is this? A higher number? Oh, he's talking to Harvey. I'm excited for the BWS as I've been for anything in years. I know in these art-centric books, I feel like there's like a lot of Marvel fans, like the omnibuses are like Art Adams. Art Adams would be a great one. Holy crap. Arthur Adams would be an awesome creator collection. But anyways, these omnibuses that are like Art Adams, like a lot of these fans like that I see on like Near My Condition and things, I hate those collections. They're like why would you want to read that? It's so like out of whack. You don't get a complete story. Like, but I am always like more art centric than story centric with comics. I love a good story, don't get me wrong, but I'm more drawn to like really cool looking art than I am drawn to a writer and their story. If one of my favorite writers is writing a story with boring art, I kind of turns me off. But so I love these collections where you can see an artist's artwork and their style progress throughout the years. Like Barry Windsor-Smith, that first volume is when he was still doing like his Kirby influence kind of style, and then we're gonna see his artwork evolve into like this amazing, like mind-blowing Weapon X stuff. I can't wait for it. So I love seeing that kind of stuff. Wonder if they view this as creator over IP, if that makes sense. Well, probably, but Marvel still sees it as that we're letting someone else publish our IP, which is amazing. Walter Simonson, I saw that would be, I think that'd be too long. I think that'd be like 10 volumes. It would be great though. And you'd get more faithful coloring in the Thor series. How about that? Wally Wood, Bill Sienkiewicz, Richard Corbin. I doubt Dark Horse will be able to, with their library set, so it would be perfect. Oh man, that'd be great. Yeah, because he had that Luke Cage series. He did, Bernie Wrightson would be another good one. He did a couple graphic novels that have never been reprinted, like Hooky, the Spider-Man graphic novel is really good. Bernie Wrightson and Richard Corbin would both be really good ones. Interesting. I have that huge Stranko's Revolutionary book, and it's awesome. Yeah, I have the S.H.I.E.L.D. Omnibus, and I have the Captain America Omnibus with those 3 issues in it. So I have most of his Marvel work. Mike Mignola. Taylor, Wally Wood isn't good enough. No, I did not say that. Come on. Lost Marvels of Frank Bruner. Yeah, that's another good one. Frank Bruner had great issues of Doctor Strange. Howard the Duck, obviously, would be cool, which might already be collected in Tower Shadows. Yeah, so some of his other work would be cool too. There should be a complete collection of Corbin's. It'd be even cooler too is if they did the Corbin Marvel collection and styled the book to look like it falls in line with the Dark Horse collections. I'd be a sucker for that. I mean, I'd buy it regardless of what it looked like, but that'd be cool. Mignola did a lot of Marvel Presents. There's a Namor one I want. I'm hoping that one day they do a Marvel Comics Presents omnibus line. I'll be all over. There's so many cool artists that went through that line. Marie Severin would be a fun one. Yeah, Marie Severin, mostly known as a colorist, but she did a lot of great work as an artist too. On Namor, even like Muppet Babies, her artwork looked great in that. Oh, there's the Mignola bibliography of Marvel. Wasn't that a Grace Jones song, Slave to the Algorithm? Was it? I don't know. It's my life, though. I agree about hating these algorithm tricks. All marketing trickery disgusts me. I agree. But again, if the end goal is to show off cool comics, and I do a video, like if I have like, I don't know, a Feral Dalrymple that I want to show off, and I make the thumbnail look like just his artwork, it's going to get like 200 views. But if I put my dumb face in it, it'll probably get like 1,000 views. And for some reason, that's better in the end because I want people to look at Feral Dalrymple's artwork. Corbin, Marvel said could finally collect that random charity comic that he has paired with Alan Moore. Yeah. Jordan, you had the X-Men book. The ends justifies the means. Taylor Talks Comics. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Does anybody else have an opinion on the thumbnail thing? Does it even bother you? Do you, as viewers, collect or click on a thumbnail based on the subject matter, based on the person's face reaction? I need to outsource that kind of survey as well. Okay, so let's talk about the Harvey Awards, and then we'll get out of here. So these are just the nominations so far. Let me present here. Make sure that looks good on the screen. Okay. And we'll go over this when we get to the winners, but I want to go over the nominees. So these will be announced at New York Comic Con, and they're the annual Harvey Awards, which are named after the great Harvey Kurtzman, one of the all-time great cartoonists, one of the most important figures in all of comic book history. I could go on and on and on about how important Harvey Kurtzman was to the comic book industry. So to have an award named after him is amazing. We have the Ignatz Award named after Crazy Cat, right? We have the Harvey Awards named after Kurtzman. We have the Eisner Awards named after Eisner. I think Jack Kirby Awards, which used to be a thing before the Eisners and then became defunct. Some Comic-Con should bring that up, I guess. But anyways, let's talk about these nominees. So, Book of the Year, we have Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Horvath, Final Cut by Charles Burns, Helena Windhorn by Tom King and Bilquis Evely, Precious Metal from the World of Little Bird by Darcy Von Polgeest and Ian Bertram, and Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 by Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto. I'm assuming that's the first volume of the trade paperback for that one. The only ones I've read on this list so far are Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees and Final Cut, which I did videos on both of those. If the moderators want to check those out or share links to those. I have read Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1. It was a fine comic. It wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It didn't blow me away. I like Jonathan Hickman just fine. The artwork was fine by Marco Cicchetto. It was good artwork. I shouldn't say just fine. I think my annoyance with these Ultimate Universe and Absolute Universes that Marvel and DC are doing probably soured my enjoyment of it anyways, because I just wish Marvel and DC would get over themselves, and rather than have Jonathan Hickman where he doesn't want to write the normal, like if like there's no telling that if Marvel went to Jonathan Hickman and said, do you want to write Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, the main line? Like they would definitely offer that to him if that's what he wanted. But instead, he's like, no, I don't want to deal with those editors and the editorial nonsense that goes on with that. Let me do Ultimate Spider-Man's different universe. Same thing with Snyder over at DC with Absolute Batman. He probably is like, I don't want to write any more Batman stories. Let me do Absolute Batman. It's like, why do you have to bring these creators in for these alternate universe things? Like, why don't you elevate your actual proper universe things and not let this editorial nonsense get in the way of great creative stories? Let Jonathan Hickman tell the story of a middle-aged Spider-Man who's married and has kids in the normal universe rather than, I don't know. That's just my little rant about that. So probably why I didn't enjoy it as much. Precious Metal is, I have no excuse why I haven't read that. And Little Bird. The artwork looks amazing in both of those. It definitely seems up my alley. And then Helena Windhorn, I talked about this on my channel a few weeks ago. But I read Supergirl and it didn't jive with me. So I do want to read Helena Windhorn because I've heard it's better, or I would enjoy it more, maybe, perhaps. I'll give it a shot. The Bilquis Evely artwork, though, is brilliant. Like, she is an amazing artist. Her artwork on Supergirl was fantastic. It was the writing that I didn't love. So, then we got some chats in here about this. Let me go through here. Oh, we have some people talk about the thumbnail things. Hold on. Can we trust a video if it doesn't have that shock and awe face? I know, right? It's so weird and annoying. I don't like it. Can't speak for what's more effective, but click on videos based on the subject matter. It's good to hear. I click based on subject matter or to actively voice my distaste. Not surprised, Harvey, but I love that. I love that about you. I swear I'm the only one that didn't like Beneath the Trees. I feel that, hey, it's fine. I feel that way about Supergirl by King and Evely. I feel like I'm the only one in the world that didn't love that. Glad it's not the Harvey P. Carr's Ghost Awards. Everyone would lose. I would actually love for Harvey P. Carr's Ghost to put together a list of his favorite, based on these categories, his favorite comics. I'd love to, and I'd go over on the show, Harvey. Obviously, you're welcome to join me, but I know you don't typically like to be on shows, but I would go through your list for sure. I do like enjoy your taste in comics and enjoy your opinions on these awards. And especially like right here, these Harvey nominees are batshit crazy. Oh, excuse me for cussing. I try to keep it PG on the afternoon show here. You're on loan, but for a different reason, I didn't read it. Tend to avoid serial killer stuff. Oh, Beneath the Trees. How do you choose between those first 4 books of the year? They're all awesome. I know. I think the hard one, I think Final Cut would win from this list for me for sure. Beneath the Trees was great. I don't know if Final Cut would be the winner for me. I like Good Ones. The issue becomes point by numbers. I feel since it's animals, why people lost their mind. What does digital book mean? We'll get to that in a second. Even the categories are stupid. The Oscar doesn't have best made in film or digital. Yeah. That's an interesting take on a good point. Taylor, shame you didn't like True Grit, a superhero. I know. Sorry. I posted my favorite comic of 2022, but haven't been keeping up with it. Well, why not? Assuming you haven't had enough favorites. My grade school bus driver told us SHIT isn't a curse word because it's a noun that describes a thing. I don't think that's logic makes any sense. I feel like all cuss words are nouns or verbs. But interesting little argument there from your bus driver. Digital book of the year. So these are comics that are originally digital comics, I guess. Like their first format wasn't single issues or graphic novels that originally released digitally. I'm assuming that's what that means. Castle Swimmer by Wendy Lee and Martin. Morgana and Oz by Mai Yuli from Webtoons. The Mafia Nanny, that sounds fun, by Violet Matter, and Shu. Resenter by Gigi Murakami, which is on Viz Manga. And then Sarah Scribbles by Sarah Anderson. I'm not familiar with any of those. Let me know in the chat if you've read any of those. Best children's book. I feel like I know who's going to win this one, but let's go through it anyways. Cartoonist Club by Raina Tagameyer, Scott McCloud. I still need to read that. My son's read that. And he loved it. He's a big Raina Tagameyer fan. I'm a big Scott McCloud fan, so we're going to do a video together on that eventually when I get a chance to read it. Chicken Pox by Remy Lai. Free Piano, Not Haunted. I can't talk today. By Whitney Gardner. Mixed Up by Cami Garcia and Brittany Williams. Song for You and I by Kay O'Neill. And Weirdo by Tony Weaver Jr. I'm not familiar with most of those. Cartoonist Club I still need to read. Best children's book. That's a weird category because some of these I feel like are YA. But then we have a best young adult book. Wouldn't Cartoonist Club fall into that? I don't know. That's interesting. Ash's Cabin, How It All Ends, Navigating with You, Raised by Ghosts. Oh, by Brianna Lowenson. I am familiar with that one. And Strange Bedfellows. Let me know if there's any of these that you think I should highlight. Obviously, I'm not familiar with a lot of these. Best manga. The guy she wasn't interested in wasn't a guy at all. By Sumiki Arai, translated by Ajani Ole by Yin Press. The Summer Haikaru Died. That's from Yin Press. Tokyo These Days by Taya Matsumoto. That's my winner right there. Tokyo These Days. Taya Matsumoto, my favorite mangaka. The series is great. Windbreaker by Satoru Nii by Kodansha. And Witch Hat Atelier by Kodansha. That's another series I want to read. Witch Hat Atelier, but I'm not. That's international book. Black Sad, They All Fall Down Part 2 from Dark Horse Comics. Mothballs by Solotero. I love that book. I also have a video on that one on my channel from Fantagraphics. Moy Bridge by Guy Delisle. Guy Delisle is, or Guy Delisle, I don't know how to pronounce that, is a cartoonist I need to read more of. Sunday by Olivia Schwan. That's my winner in this category. Sunday by Olivia Schwan for sure. That's my favorite read last year. All of last year was Sunday. And then The Road, which I need to read. This is the Cormac McCarthy story or novel being translated by Manu Larsenet. Not translated, I'm sorry. Adapted by Manu Larsenet. Best adaptation from a comic or graphic novel. Oh, this is like okay. So this is taking a comic and translating it into a movie or whatever, or TV show. So we have Agatha All Along, Berlin the Play. Oh, Jason Ludish, Berlin. Okay, so it's a theater, so I haven't seen that. Boop the Musical, Cat Kid Comic Club. I love that series. That's Dave Pilkey. It was in a musical? That wasn't around town. I didn't see that. Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. Fantastic Four First Steps, paying for it. Superman by DC Studios. The Penguin on Max Original, and Thunderbolts. From that list, I'm going to go with Superman, Fantastic Four, a close second. Is that it? That's it. Okay. That is an interesting awards categories. I don't know that I love that. What do you guys think about these categories? Let me see. I like good ones. The issue became paint by numbers. I feel like since it's in, oh, okay, that's beneath the trees is what he's talking about there. Taylor, shame on you. Oh no, I already said that. Where am I at? Grade school. Oh, there it is. I just took too long and also never kept track of what I read was actually put out that year. I use Goodreads for that. Goodreads is a good thing for me to go back and see what I read. I'm terrible about that too. Also, did it come out this year? Beneath the Trees? I think no. Well, like probably their calendar is probably based off the last Harvey Awards. So if the last Harvey Awards happened when's the New York Comic Con? Like September or October. So probably the best releases from after that awards through the next awards, if that makes sense. And I think that was released in September, October, the trade paperback was, because I reviewed it on my channel shortly after that. For my bus driver's logic, doesn't make sense. I just never forgot it due to being such an odd thing to say. You don't know Sarah Scribbles? She does short, like 2-panel comics. They're fun. I'll make it on my list or add it to my list. I didn't know. That's why I do. That's why I went over these for you guys to tell me what the good stuff is. Hoping Raina. Are you said bus driver? I didn't have a bus driver's license in grade school, unfortunately. Guy Delisle. Okay. That doesn't sound like the cycle we know. Best adaptation gets like 10 nominations, but the best comic gets like 5. That's true. Just how Harvey Kurtzman would have wanted it for sure. Yeah, I'm sure Kurtzman was a huge fan of like Mad TV, the Mad TV show. No. You're right, though. That is silly that they have 10 nominations for that category, but not the other ones. This feels weird for Comics Award. I agree. I don't mind the adapted category being there. Like, that doesn't bother me, but I think they should have more categories, period, that have to do with comics, like best single issue, best writer, best artist, best letter, like those kind of categories I think would be better. Mixed Up is a story about dyslexia. Features a teenage girl struggling with school and the impact it had on her mentally, socially because of how it felt different. I think my son might have read that. Let me look that up. I think my son might have read this book, actually. Mixed Up comic. Mixed Up. Maybe he might have read that. He loves those kind of books, though. Again, I feel like that's kind of like in the category of like the Raina Telgemeier books, like that young adult dealing with school, adolescence issues kind of books, slice of life for that age group. Harvey Picar's Ghost is a different account, Josh. You can direct your questions there. It's a great story that can be applied to a lot of different things relating to anyone who has had to deal with something like that. Also presented in a dyslexia-friendly font style. That's awesome. I have power to ban. Oh, ha, 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 ha. He will always be Psycho in my heart. $1 billion movies don't need an award for NYCC. Just saying. Well, I mean, I can even go further and say I wish those Comic Cons had more to do with comics than these $1 billion movies, because that's always the big hubbub around them, right? San Diego Comic Con. What's the biggest news coming out of that every year? It's always like, what new Marvel DC movies coming out? This year, there was a little bit of news from Marvel DC about the comics, which was nice, but it's always mostly the movies, unfortunately. Derek Landy on the ongoing Doctor Strange. I look forward to the series with even Fiorelli artwork. Okay. I'm glad you brought that to my attention. If I have won a Harvey, at this point, I would definitely pull a Brando George C. Scott move. No upcoming artist, no best writer. So, yeah, I agree. Mixed Up. LOL. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to go through my plugs, put any last minute comments, questions, concerns, and whatever in the chat. After I get done with my plugs, I will go through the last bits of the chat, and then we'll get out of here. But yes, thank you for joining me. Next Wednesday, I'll be back on the normal showtime, normal day, Wednesday at noon Eastern. We go live every week to go over the latest comic book news and chat with you guys. Always love doing the show. I appreciate you guys joining me. Look for my videos throughout the week when I go over things. Go over new acquisitions, new pickups, new comic books that I want to show off. Little teaser. I believe tomorrow I'm going to release a video where I finally picked up my holy grail, my white whale of comic books. finally picked it up. We're going to do a special video for that one. So check that out. See what my holy grail was. See if it's your holy grail or whatever. And then you can put in the comments what you are always hunting down in comics. And so that'll be tomorrow. I'm going to release that tomorrow afternoon probably. And I'll have some fantagraphics books reviewed. Evergreen review will be on my channel next week. Moon Prince, I still need to do that video, and all some other videos. But please subscribe. Comment down below if you're watching. If you're not watching this live, comment down below if any of your thoughts about the video. I always reply to those comments. Give the video a thumbs up, and check out my TikTok as well. I always do. I've been trying to do that daily, and check out all my stuff on other platforms. I appreciate that so much. Discord, you can follow us on there. You can join in the chat of comics on there throughout the week. It's always fun. And Hello Kitty Paradise Island Complete Collection box set. How did you find that? I don't know. Oh, the the Holy Grail White Whale. No, that's not it. It's not it. Near Zero. Thanks, Taylor. Always a fun show. Thank you for joining me, Near Zero. Been a pleasure. Folks, thanks, Taylor. There's my TikTok. Subscribe there for daily content, shorter form videos. Thank you guys, everyone, and keep talking comics.